Proposed Washington bill could allow police to hire non-U.S. citizens. Pierce County Sheriff says he refuses. Let's get this straight. Washington state lawmakers are going to allow non-U.S. citizens to police U.S. citizens in the state of Washington. What could go wrong? Let's get into it. Here we go. I found this clip on the Conservative Ladies of Washington. I didn't know until a month or two ago that there were conservative ladies in Washington, but there are. They got a YouTube channel. Check them out. They put this guy on here, and I have no idea who he is, but he seems like he's got an idea of why our legislators might be going down this pathway. Let's see what he has to say.
Senate Bill 5068 passed. Just realized. Out of the Senate with bipartisan support, 49 yays. Now, what is 5068? 5068 allows foreign nationals to serve as law enforcement in the Washington state territory.
Why?
Why is that interesting? Well, we're at a law enforcement shortage, right?
Yep.
Not one of the platforms that sort of Bob Ferguson keeps sounding off how they need to hire new law enforcement. And all the prosecuting attorneys' offices with any backlogs around the state, they need to hire new attorneys. Well, 5068 makes that easier in the RCWs to happen. Basically, what it does, for the most part, it strikes out the DACA language. It basically takes that out. It basically lists DACA people as those that can, DACA recipients as being able to serve in the capacity for law enforcement and attorneys' offices, prosecuting attorneys' offices. And basically it strikes that out and it just says anybody who's legally allowed to in the United States.
Let her rip.
Federal law,
Why not?
Streamlines the process. So why would that be interesting? Well, if you're looking to find law enforcement that will enforce unconstitutional laws, that's where you're going to have to go. Legacy law enforcement employees, people with moral and ethical compunctions about upholding the Constitution. They stand in the way of a lot of these laws. They may actually fight against it or not prosecute or won't arrest. And if we can find people that will, then they can enforce unconstitutional laws and put people like you and me in jail faster. That's what it is. I think that's where they're going to try and find the people, the jackboots on the ground willing to do it. Because a lot of our law enforcement in a lot of cases won't enforce unconstitutional laws. You see that a lot. I've heard that a lot from people who basically say, well, I served in the military. I would never, uphold unconstitutional laws. I've served in law enforcement. I would never uphold unconstitutional laws. But if you go to, say, somebody who's crossing over the border from Mexico or maybe coming here from India and you say, hey, I got a job for you, all you have to do is enforce unconstitutional laws. Do you think they'll be less inclined or more inclined?
Yes.
I'll leave that up to you, but that's kind of at the moment is how easy are they making it? So anyway, Senate Bill 5068 passed out of the Senate with 49 yays and is in the House. It's scheduled for an executive session on the 20th of March. So let your reps know because they may be all that stand in the way if that's even possible. Check you later.
So that's his opinion on why this law is going into place. I live in Washington State. I've lived here all my life. Is that possible? Is that probable? Yeah, I could see that being a motivation. I think bottom line is they're just trying to get some more cops up in here. But guess what? You defunded the police. You've got a bunch of libtards running around. Nobody wants to be a cop in an area where you can't do policing without the threat of losing your job and being sued for some mamby-pamby piece of nonsense. Oh, I got impacted by right? You don't let cops do their job anymore. Nobody wants to be a cop. So, hey, let's bring in a bunch of foreign nationals and we'll just have them do policing. Should be fine, right? Should just be 2 thumbs up. No. I'm a hard no-go on this one. Hard no-go. It's just absurd. It's absurd. law enforcement and basically taking away people's rights in the arrest process and in the incarceration process done by foreign nationals? I don't think so. Period. I just don't. That's ridiculous. But then again, I live in the state of Washington. I got podcasts for days. I mean, every week there's something coming up where I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Much appreciated. New Pierce County Sheriff said he will refuse to hire any non-U.S. citizen after a new Washington bill passed, which would allow law enforcement to hire anyone who can legally work in the U.S. All right, you got a work visa? Here we go. You're going to become a cop. Good luck out there, Junior. Senate Bill 5068 was backed by the entire state Senate. 30 Dems and 19 Republicans in early February. I have a problem with non-citizens being cops and arresting our citizens in Pierce County. Therefore, we're not going to hire non-citizens in Pierce County Sheriff's Office, said Keith Swank, sheriff of the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Swank told Cairo 7 News that he supports non-U.S. citizens working in the country, including in the military, but just not within law enforcement. All right. There's a difference between law enforcement and the military. In law enforcement, we arrest people. We take away their constitutional rights. We lock them up in jail. We don't use our military to do that. They're defending America, military, hopefully in foreign countries and foreign places, right? And here, if we need to, so there's a big difference, he said. But his main concern is how non-citizens would be vetted. He added. All right, this is one of the things that I was thinking about. All right, you got somebody that came in from Venezuela. You got somebody that came in from Honduras. I would like to be a police officer. And you're like, all right, can you get your records, from your hometown, whatever those might be? Can you show us, paperwork that proves you are who you say you are and that you don't have a criminal background, that you haven't been part of a gang, that you haven't been, No, I can't. All right, let's sign you up anyway. We check everything out from the childhood the whole way down to the present day whenever you apply to be here. If you're from a foreign country, we don't have that ability to check anything out about you. But Washington State, what do they say? Let them be cops, let them be prosecutors, should be fine. What could go wrong? Yeah, it's mental midgetry, right? I mean, you are a mental midget if you don't think that there's going to be some inherent problems in that process. What could go wrong, right? It's something I say all the time because obviously a lot could go wrong. Senator John Lovick, who sponsored the bill, disagreed and shared the following sentiment. State Bill 5068 is a good bill, allowing those legally authorized to work in the country, such as DACA recipients, the opportunity to serve and protect their communities. How about you make policing an industry that isn't villainized and demonized on the daily? And then you'll have U.S. citizens who are meant to do this job policing everyone. What about that? Oh, good Lord. No, we can't do that. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, no. This will help ease Washington's peace officer shortage and get officers into the communities that need them. Now, there's a law enforcement shortage across the United States. There just is. We've vilified policing. We've said, oh, cops are bad. Cops are killing all the blacks. Just ridiculous stuff that isn't statistically backed up. It's just not. It's a fairy tale. And we've put all of these, oversight committees, these federal oversight committees on police departments, and you've restricted the use of tools. You've restricted the way people can do certain things. And if you follow policy, you still might get sued, and you still, police entities are hanging their cops out to dry. So if you want to get more cops up in there, start supporting police officers, start supporting law and order. Don't diminish it with nonsense like this. That is why the Washington State Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, the King County Prosecutor's Attorney, and every member of the Washington State Senate support this legislation. Well, they're a bunch of knuckleheads. That's the way I see it. U.S. government conducts an extensive background check before authorizing a legal immigrant to work in the country. You mean like the Biden administration did as a federal entity with the 20 million illegals that streamed across the border? You mean like that? That kind of thorough background check. You created one app. Just sign up in the app. They'll give you a hearing. You come on in. We'll just bring you on in. You mean like that kind of background check? Is that what we're talking about? That doesn't seem very thorough. It doesn't seem like a vetting process. A police officer's job is to keep people safe and make them feel safe. People legally authorized to work in Washington who love their neighborhood and neighbors enough to risk their life to protect them deserve the chance to do so. Once they've got their citizenship, I don't have an issue. I just don't. You know what I mean? You got to draw that line somewhere. You're a citizen? Yes, I'm okay with it. You're not? Not so much. However, Swank said he believes the bill would not truly address the shortage of officers across the region. That's bottom line. You're not going to get any more cops coming from DACA in Seattle, right? I mean, nobody wants to be a cop here. Nobody wants to be a cop here. So, and that's why we've got a historically low number of police officers relative to our population. So that being said, right, the real problem is the reason it's hard to hire people in Washington state. The state legislature has made laws in Washington administrative codes that make it very difficult to be an officer here, he said. Cops don't want to work here when they're afraid to do something that they might be put in prison for. Let's read that last part again. Cops don't want to work here when they're afraid to do something they might be put in prison for. That's a big deal. And that goes for any big blue liberal city having a hard time retaining their police officers. It's an ongoing story to the point where it's like the boy who cried wolf. People just don't believe that we've got an issue. And the only way we're going to find that out is with one big mass casualty impacting public safety. A big, big event. Well, why didn't this happen? Why didn't that happen? You know, all the weekend quarterbacks, you know, in the media come out and, I would have done this if I were the police chief. And you just flat don't have enough cops to keep your community safe. So the bill passed the House Committee on Community Safety last week with a 6-3 vote. Yeah, that's just stupid. Washington bill could allow non-citizens to prosecute U.S. citizens. I mean, it's just, we're talking about a police officer's ability to take away your rights under certain situations, Representative Jenny Graham, Republican from Spokane, said prior to a Thursday vote. These would be individuals that are not U.S. citizens that have the ability now to take away the rights of U.S. citizens. Oh, yeah. How's that work? This is Washington State, folks. This is why everything here is upside down and backwards. And then when things don't work out, like skyrocketing rents. Why is that? Well, we've constricted the supply of housing and we keep going down that road. Hey, let's go ahead and cap rents at XYZ% a year. Let's, create situations where builders and developers don't want to build any more units. And let's just keep adding overlay after overlay after overlay of regulation. And then we don't have any builders left. This is literally what's happening in Portland right now. And then we wonder, there's not enough housing units to go around. Why are rents going to the moon? It's logic like that. I don't understand. Why is this happening to our community? People in Seattle right now are like, I don't get it. Why don't we have enough cops? And, and you look up at their house and they've got to defund the police like a moron still sitting in the window right next to their Black Lives Matter sign. I mean, just mentally, compromised. And those are the folks that we deal with here in Seattle. And that's how you get a situation where law enforcement across the U.S. has been denigrated. But specifically in big blue liberal cities, it's become very difficult to hire police officers because who wants to go work for an entity that doesn't support you? Your mayor doesn't support you. Your city council doesn't support you. Who wants to go work in that? Nobody. And that's who's signing on. Virtually nobody. The number of retirees, the number of lateral moves, the number of people quitting the industry, I mean, it's barely keeping even right now, specifically here in Seattle. The intent is to widen the pool of possible recruits to include not only those who are lawful permanent residents or green card holders and DACA recipients, but a wider universe of those who are legally authorized to be in the United States. For law enforcement? What's wrong with you? I mean, literally, what's wrong with you? It should be fine. I mean, you are literally, you know what I mean? It's just, that's the stuff I got to work with. But like I say, you got to have that glass half full. I got podcasts for days. And by that, I mean weeks, months, years. Here's where that liberal ideology comes into place. It could be that some of these recruits who are lawfully allowed to be in the United States are nevertheless prohibited from carrying weapons under federal law, he added. So the amendment provides that does not prevent them from being trained and certified and employed by law enforcement agency. I'm sorry. What? These are the harebrained schemes we have to deal with, and it just makes no sense. However, Representative Brian Burnett, Republican from Wenatchee, opposed the bill based on concerns over the ability for these officers to carry firearms off-duty and or across state lines, saying it would not be legal for them to do so. We do not want to set these people up for failure or criminal charges. I think that we have a commitment to protect our citizens, but also the agencies that these people would be working for. So on so many different levels, this is just a violation of the laws of reality, which is, you want to be a cop? Probably need to be a U.S. citizen, period. I mean, what other countries in the world just, be a cop here? You betcha. No problem. No citizenship. 2 thumbs up. Is that even a thing? Yeah, most governmental entities and most foreign countries will not allow you to be a law officer of the law, unless you have citizenship. But hey, in Washington, here's the harebrained scheme we're going to come up with to get some more police officers up in here. I mean, you're coming up with a solution that totally ignores the root cause of the problem, which is that you don't like cops, you don't support cops, you don't respect cops, you allowed CHOP to happen, you allow just a slew of nonsense to happen, and you create an environment where nobody wants to be a cop. How about you address that first? And once you get those things squared away, maybe, just maybe, people want to become police officers again. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, right? These things are not that hard to figure out. And yet, when you live in a state like I do in Washington, podcast for days aside, you got some harebrained people who just think, this should be great. I don't see a problem with it. And you look at their other 57 other pieces of policy and go, well, that's a piece of crap. That's terrible. That's a terrible idea. And you're like, okay, this is how we get where we are. Just a bunch of ideology that doesn't work in reality, but let's throw it out there anyway. Let's roll the dice, see what happens. Literally, what could go wrong? Well, podcast for days. That's it for me on this one. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.